And we are back. I hope you guys all enjoy those videos. Kind of highlighting Leonard Nimoy a little bit. How do we start this next conversation? In our last episode, we talked about it a little bit. We had mentioned that among literary types, right, that conflict is what drives story. Like without a conflict, you have no story. And it's not talking about like conflict like people beating on each other or whatever, but it could be like conflict about like how one guy overcame an obstacle and accomplished his business objective in a story. That's the conflict that has to be decided. And that's great. That's easy. That's the easy part about it. In gaming, though, what we have is the conflict between the players and how that occurs. How do you design for that? How do you allow for that conflict but create a fun atmosphere? Because normally when one person is winning the conflict, the other person is losing the conflict, and losing is not fun. It's just the easiest way to put it. So Flatus, you asked the question. I'm gonna repeat the question, and then I'll turn it over to you to explain your thoughts on why you asked the question. The question was why is there going to be PvP flagging in EverQuest Next or not? Why did that come up? What was your question? What were you trying to resolve?
Well, we were having a conversation. And by conversation, I mean myself, Corona, Zube, Crayola Kitty, and Sunglare about PvP in EverQuest Next, because we don't know really anything about PvP or anything actually really going into EverQuest Next. So we with all these other games coming out, Crowfall, Camelot Unchained, and how Camelot Unchained does PvP, and other games, so forth, and the older games like WoW and newer stuff, Guild Wars, how they all handle PvP is very vast and different. And we kept coming up across like, well, if EverQuest Next is really going to be this game that offers this life of consequence, offers these rallying calls, they have to take PvP into consideration, because you have how does it handle when it comes to like a rallying call, for instance, where like someone like Zube, who is very much like, I want the conflict between myself, what's going on with the rallying call, and myself and the players trying to stop, help, hinder, or whatever. That's cool. And I said, yeah, but there's also the group of people that want to eliminate the people that are going to be griefing the PvE version of rallying calls, or that PvE, the rallying call itself. And I said, and then the argument said, well, you can't stop somebody in a PvE setting if they want to grief the rallying call. I said, well, you can. They have flagged PvP. I use that example because that's what I'm used to right now. I don't know what they're going to have in EverQuest Next, so I decided to ask Terry. I took a shot in the dark. I did not get an answer, but I took a shot in the dark. So that was the question I asked, because like, how do you handle it? It's been, I don't want to jump into our other thing we got to talk about, but like, how is it handled? And it's a good question, because I don't know. I can't think of a way to get around it. Do they just do the same old thing that everyone else is doing? Do they change it? Do they make PvP more accessible? How do you stop griefers? How do you stop certain guilds that are known for griefing going into games like this and griefing forever? Like, there's big guilds that do grief for lifetimes of games, depending on how popular that game is. So, and there's people in chat right now like Corona saying, I hate flagged PvP. It's a thing. It's a thing for people that do PvE. I'll use Lucy as an example. Lucy, if you're doing a rallying call, would you prefer to do it in a PvE or PvP setting?
I will not be playing EverQuest Next in a PvP setting.
Now, my follow-up question is, if somebody decided to attack an NPC, right, and you were going to stop them, how would you do it?
The same way I would do it if somebody kept killing me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again and I couldn't do anything about it. Walk away. Come back later. Do the quest later. There's ways around PvE griefing. I mean, you have to deal with it anyway in any game, even with PvP. So why resort to PvP when you just don't give the person what they're looking for, which is conflict?
Now I'm going to ask Zubek. Zubek, how do you handle it?
In a PvE setting or a PvP setting?
I'll give you the PvP setting.
I mean, it depends. You know, in a game like EverQuest Next, where reading all the lore and stuff, it seems like the perfect game to have PvP, where you have all these rally calls, like that whole example with the Storybricks thing that we saw at SW Live, where you have the Trents or the Dryads and the Dark Elves and then the Shadow people that come and stuff. You want to choose a side to help and then kill all the other people. If you have players choosing one side to defend against you, I want to be able to kill them. I want to be able to stop them from doing whatever they're doing so I can get my people to victory. The thing with flag PvP is both parties have to flag. You can't just have one person flag. You won't be able to do anything. So it doesn't work that way. Unless it's
I would like to point something out about Zubai's answer. You're assuming that you can kill the person in PvP. Maybe you suck at PvP and you can't kill another person no matter how hard you try.
See how that works, but I mean, they're not having levels, right? They're having horizontal levels. Everyone should have an equal chance to kill people. If you have friends group up together, I wouldn't go solo, obviously. You get a bunch of people together and try to kill the other people.
But I play at odd times, and I don't play on EU servers, which is usually where most of my people, like the times that I usually play, there aren't other people to group up with. I usually play solo. It shouldn't have to be that you have to play multiplayer in order to complete any quest at all.
Yeah, I think it should be, honestly. I mean, back in EverQuest days, you basically had to group all the time to do anything. I mean, if you were a mage...
That's not conceivable in today's MMO market. Always being able to have a group.
That's a whole other new level of conflict.
Now it's getting up there. Everyone has their different ideals on MMOs.
I don't PvP well, even though I realistically I know what I need to do and I know how to kill the other player. I'm the same level. I have the gear. I have anxiety, and I literally I start panicking as soon as another player attacks me, and I can't do it. I can't think straight. So I always lose. Literally, I always lose. So for me, PvP isn't an answer. It's not a way to get to my goal. It's just a thing that keeps me from being able to play without that anxiety, which is a game that I'm playing to relax.
See, that's where... Man,
exactly.
This topic's hot as hell.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not... I'm just saying there's other considerations to think of. It's not just you just kill them. Well, it's not that easy for some people. Some people play with disabilities. Some people play mental or physical. I have anxiety. It's not just that simple. Oh, you just kill them. It's not that simple for some people.
She's right.
See, and a lot of people in chat are both sides. We have Chrono who said the solution is to make consequences of PvP matter. If you kill the player, you should take faction hits with every faction your victim is friendly with. That's a solution, but
exactly, and that's where especially because everything that's come out of EverQuest Next that we know so far says that they're taking the the MMO to the next level, that they're trying to look at why they made decisions they made earlier and rethink them and come up with like, well, we did it then because of these reasons, but we don't have to do it for those reasons anymore. So let's try and think of a new way to do it, right? The reason that they had quests and NPCs behave they did before is because they didn't have like the Storybricks AI. And now they might not have the Storybricks AI, but they still have an AI system that they're going to put in place that isn't going to be the same like basically brainless robot that is standing there to give you a quest. Like the world is supposed to be alive and vibrant, and you're supposed to be able to figure out what to do without having the quest giver tell you what to do. And so the whole notion of like going to accomplish this quest seems a little bit archaic because, and I know that it's called EverQuest, but shouldn't you just be like, hey, these people, I know that these people need help and no one gave me a quest to go do it. And so I'm out there and I'm trying to help them. But, right? This is how we all imagine it happening. There's no that when you're playing the game, that this is what you're thinking about doing. Like, hey, what happens if I raise these villagers into this prosperous life because I provide all the protection that they need? What's that?
I was just gonna say my normal response to conflict is getting my main, but that doesn't work in this game.
Yep, because it's
what happened?
I couldn't hear that.
Anyway, I think that the PvP thoughts that we have are kind of archaic because that from everything we've seen, like there are going to be competing factions that are backed by different players, and we saw that in their content of AI panel, or their content of EverQuest Next panel, where they're showing that here's one faction and here's another faction, and then they're showing how the players are supporting the different factions, right? And that's a form of conflict, and that's a form of players conflicting with one another by proxy through the NPCs. They've shown that. Like, we know that that's going to happen. What we don't know about is the idea of another player physically being able to kill you whenever they'd like to, or you being able to kill them whenever you'd like to kill them. And I understand why you would still want to separate that out, because I don't know about you, but when I die in a game that I think that I'm pretty good at, it bothers me. It does. Somebody said before is that when you have one player kill another player, what they did is they transferred the fun. This player now has more fun. This player now has less fun because he killed him. And
well, sometimes, I mean, like the ones who go on the hardcore PvP servers and are like PvP, till I die, and they want to PvP and they understand that it's a choice when you log on that server and you roll on that server that you're going to be PvPing. I totally understand that they can have fun, like just being like doing a quest and all of a sudden they get a dagger in their back and they're like, oh, I wasn't paying attention. Next time I'll get you. I totally get that. And I totally get the fact that players are the smartest monsters. And there is challenge there that you don't get with quest mobs. I totally get that. It's just not for me.
Yeah,
right. And that's where they have to start thinking about how do we make it so that how can you have it so that the players are able to proxy conflict with one another and have it fun for both sides.
See, I have a suggestion for that. I was thinking about that today. If they give me like an immediate feedback as to which side's winning, like in a conflict. Let's say we take the Dryads and the Dark Elves from the SOE Live. If you're backing the Dryads and you can literally see the Dark Elves gaining that power and gaining foothold, it would spur me to move faster, work harder, get friends in, like be texting people, be like, get in game right now, I need you, like stuff like that. You can drive conflict in the game without adding other players in a PvP sort of setting. Like especially with EQN, if you're both doing like a gathering quest and you both two sides need to gather this special crystal for your side faster than the other, I could go in with my mage, sneak into their base and like blow up the whole area around their little basket with my voxel damaging spells so they can't get to it. There are ways to grief without PvP.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
That's what we're talking about too.
In Warcraft, I've seen same faction griefing. Right, you can't even attack them, but there are ways to grief. And griefing on, like, just to clarify, is when your direct intention, unambiguously is to ruin the other person's fun. Like, that is your intention. That's griefing. You're causing them grief. And that's...
Or just get a bunch of your friends to stand on a quest mob so nobody can click it and get in.
Right. I've seen that done before, especially with the mammoth mounts in Warcraft. You spawn them, they're huge, and you stand right on top of a quest quiver and no one can click on it. There's also things in games that cause people to emote. There are things in games that cause audio to play on other people's PCs. You throw a bunch of those in one space where people are trying to do their own thing, and it ruins their fun. And it's done intentionally. So it's very, like, I think that we're going to have that conflict through proxy that I keep talking about on all EverQuest Next servers. And I think that the best thing for them to do is then create a PvP server and a non-PvP server. The PvP server, you see someone who is playing the game contrary to what you want to be doing while you're playing the game, kill them. Don't let nothing ambiguous about it. Like, you're trying to support the Dryads, they're trying to support the Dark Elves, they're getting in your way, you just kill them. And then on the PvE servers, there's still going to be those same conflicts through proxy. You're just going to have to be more creative in how you get around that.
Yeah. And also, don't forget, like, there could be areas in Norath that are contested zones where you enter and you're flagged. You're auto-flagged.
I don't want that.
I love those.
I do not want that. I don't want to have to PvP in order to go into a zone.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Is like I've mentioned from the get-go, I am an RP PvPer. That is the server I will be living on. In the absence of the RP part of it, we'll find our own and make our own. But from an RP point of view, when somebody comes and dies when somebody comes and kills me, I want there to be an RP implication. I want their story to be affected by the game, by the consequences they're choosing to live by. Because I don't care personally how many times I die or whatever, as long as it's making sense in a general world. Because, like I've mentioned before, my first 10 minutes of any MMO was Vanguard playing a gnome getting ganked in the gnome city, and I'm like, aren't the guards going to do anything? Like, I want to live in a world where, sure, I got killed. He was better than me in skill. He had a higher level. He had better equipment than I did. Fine, he got me. But didn't the guards see anything? Didn't they decide that they were going to help? That's what I want. I want to live in a world that's like that.
And I think that even on PvP servers, there should be consequences for killing other players. Like, your faction with the people that they're champion should go down. Like, you're killing the agents of this faction. You should suffer the consequences of that.
I can deal with that. Yeah. Oh man.
I have no idea how long it's been going on like that.
I don't know. Not long.
Not long?
Yeah, all these people are saying Talon, pulling Talon. Oh, we'll hear it. We'll let you know when they come back.
Oh, it's great. Hey, all I was saying was that I want to live in a world where if somebody is helping out the Dark Elves and I'm helping out the Dryads and they kill me because I'm helping the Dryads, sure, they should lose faction with the Dryads. But if that means that they also gain reputation with the Dark Elves, so be it. I'm happy living in that world because that is a world of consequence. It's a more living world all the time.
I could deal with that. That's for sure.
Someone asked me a question in chat. Vladis, how would those areas work? I think he's talking about the contested areas. With the idea that things are going to be moving around in the world. The land's not moving. Things are moving on the land, but not the land itself, so it'll still be a contested zone.
Wouldn't the areas that are contested change depending on which rallying call is active at the moment? And at that point, then just every rallying call is a contested zone, and you can't do a rallying call.
See, and that's PvP. Right, and that's where it gets a little weird, is because they said that that rallying calls are going to be that not all servers will unlock them at the same time. It means all servers might not accomplish them at all. But on those PvP servers, are players going to be competing against one another for these rallying calls? Because I think that like, if you're trying to like tell the story that we were talking about, right, that drive the narration, they have a vision of where EverQuest next is going in their NORAD, right? And they're telling it in their rallying calls, right? Like maybe this rallying call is establishing a new city that's neighbors to Kinos, right? And it's got to happen to advance the story, right? Do we think that they're going to? It's really weird to have players actively working against that accomplishment if that is where the story is being driven. Unless they want because if they don't, the PvP servers are going to be stuck in the past.
That's been the point I've been trying to make. Like, how do you, if this is such a story-driven game, PvP servers are the server that I don't want to play on because I'm going to be left way in the past because no one's going to want to work towards getting to the future. Because you got... Yes.
No, go ahead, finish. I have...
okay. I just feel like... I'm not saying everybody. I feel that there will be... And if this game goes free to play, and since we already know that there's not going to be specialized servers, there are going to be groups of people that are going to come on and not care about the story and just going to be like, this is PvP, I'm going to kill people. And they're going to do it to a point where it's just like, this is not fun, I'm not continuing the story. Rather, I just jump ship, go to a different server, change servers, then I gotta spend my own money, or Daybreak coins, or whatever the hell they want to call them at this point. Daybreak dollars, I don't know. But
I honestly feel like PvP players get a really bad name from a few bad eggs. Not every PvP person wants to just see the world burn. They just want to kill each other and stuff.
And I'll tell you why. It's because it only takes a small, organized PvP-minded group to wreak havoc.
Yeah, they may start with...
Because you put 10 organized people in a voice communication server that are all solidly built as a team for PvP, and they'll wreck twice their number. And I mean, they saw it in Guild Wars 2 all the time. Like you would see a Zerg, right?
Saw it in World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, saw WoW.
I played Alliance. Yeah. Trust me, I saw it. Horde was always more organized. They always had more people, and they were always face rolling up.
And our server was the opposite. It was always Alliance.
Wait, you played on the same server as me?
I'll say 2 words: the Enclave.
Yeah, Goon Squad.
They were. We didn't like them either.
Yeah, Goon Squad.
I'm just gonna say that.
Hey, when I was talking about
my suggestion about the PvP servers dying because of story blockage. For those who don't know, I come from a tabletop role-playing background, and I have dungeon mastered and game mastered and all that good stuff. The point is, you make both winning and losing have the same outcome eventually, just in a different way.
And that was what Fugazi asked. Do we even know if the story is linear? And I thought that was...
I don't think it is.
Well, what happens if it's like the Lich, right? If the rallying call means that we have to defeat the Lich to advance to the next phase of the story or whatever, right? Are they going to write into the narrative? Like, what happens when the Lich wins? What happens if the players are like, hey, we like this dark magic. We like supporting this necromantic art because it makes our own power more strong. Whatever their rationale is for it. Who cares? But they support the Lich, and the Lich goes to war against the players. Are they going to write the rallying call for if the Lich wins?
Real quick before we continue.
Maybe.
I would like to point out that I'm not assuming that everybody who PvPs has one objective. I don't think that at all. That is not my thought. I'm using the... I know, maybe because I've been in one of those groups that have been jerks who have... I was young once. So I know what it's like to be in a very organized group who can go on a server and just terrorize.
Oh,
I know what that's like.
Tanlin and I do too. It's okay.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that I am assuming, because I know Zube is not the type of person who... Zube loves EQ, and I know Zube would be one of the PvPers that wants to see the story progress, but he also wants the challenge of other players trying to rather stop hinder, and he wants to be able to take his group and fight those people, and be like, dude, not only did we champion the story, we championed those guys and shot them down.
Exactly, and on the PvP server, right? Like I played a Blood Elf Paladin right after Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, right? And to explain the story a little bit, there are reasons why Blood Elves should not like Fel magic. They should not like Warlocks, even though they can play Warlocks, right? The Fel magic is bad stuff, especially when you're a Paladin. And so I always roleplayed as hating Warlocks. And the only RP PvP event that I ever led was running around the Alliance City killing the Warlock trainers. Because if you know where the Warlock trainer is, you go all the way down into the basement of this building where the Warlock trainers is, and we camped out there. And that was my story, right? It's like, hey, we hate Warlocks. This is where the Warlocks are gathered. Kill them. And then we just hung out there.
I'm pretty sure that was our tavern. Wasn't it in the basement of a tavern with all the kegs and everything?
I think so.
Our tavern. On the same server.
You're.
At least you didn't play a warlock.
You were consorting with the demons. Demons.
Says the guy married to the warlock.
It was just fun.
You gotta know the enemy before you defeat them.
Sleeping with the enemy.
Well, that's why I played a Blood Elf Paladin. Remember, they stole then they saw what the Fel magic did to them. It made them addicted to arcane magic.
Now, I will say this, just because I remember it clearly in my head, about how rallying calls worked. Rallying calls work like this. Take Kinos. Kinos is being built, right? I'm just going to use that it's being built. So we're out gathering lumber because that's part of the rallying call. We're gathering lumber. Crafters are gathering lumber. I may be defending the area because there's different things inside the rallying call that we can all do to affect the rallying call, right? So we fail. Let's say we don't get enough lumber, or orcs take notice and are like, all right, we're going to ransack the city. We lose them. Orcs take over what is Kinos right now. That changes into a whole nother line. Now we may have to drive the orcs out to start, and then we'll pick back up and start building Kinos, and we may have to repair it or do whatever. Like that's the idea with the rallying calls. It's a kind of, I don't want to say a living story because that's what Guild Wars 2 calls their stuff, but the story progresses in these off chances. I know Fugazi said he wanted like something like was it Planetside 2 where it's just a back and forth. I'm like, I don't want that. I want to see the story progress. And what you're saying about the Lich, there may be a written thing to see if people lose. I mean, there has to be a reason. What was it? Enter the Matrix. Remember, they gave the option for people when the Matrix Online had an MMO base. That was a living story. They had writers writing that story. As players progressed through the story, they had people writing things. And I remember clearly people letting what's his name die. So
Eve. I don't know.
Not
Nero.
Not Neo.
Neo, not Nero.
Lawrence Fishburne. No, Lawrence Fishburne's character. Morpheus, yeah. They had the option. They gave people the option. Like, if you can say, I think it was like they had 1 week or a month to save Morpheus, and nobody did it, and they killed Morpheus. They were like, all right, he's dead. He's gone. And people were like, on all, dude, that was like majority of servers.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's what I like. Eve Online does a little bit like that too, where they have these player controlled sections of space, right? That players establish their own control over it. And the game developers, they interact with that world that's being created in their own way, like when they're writing stories and stuff like that. Even though Eve is not a very roleplay driven game at all, they still they take into account what's going on in their world as they're continuing on in this world, so that it's not static. You said I forget what it was. It was about, I love living in a world where the consequences are like that. If you don't protect this guy, they'll kill him.
If that means that they have to, that the development team has to hire more writers than they do people who come up with interesting, different ways to do the same quest you've done 50 million times, I'm all for it. Get more writers. Have different stories. I want that.
That's what I was
I want servers to be different.
when it came to the rallying calls, the major ones like Freeport or Kinos and stuff like that, I thought that they couldn't actually fail. They just couldn't get as big as they were. Like, you could get to like a little village with like no guards or whatever, up to a crazy huge army, but it could never fail. It just couldn't get up there if you didn't progress far enough.
Possibly. Yeah. We have to go back and rewatch that video just to make sure.
Well, either way, my big thing is that I would love to see that the world of Norath in EverQuest Next not just be a narrative down approach of storytelling where they have the story and they direct it down, and it can happen many different ways, but it's always them telling the story downward. And I would like to see a very reactive type of storytelling where they see what the players are doing and they react to it as the story progresses. That they don't, dictate.
And this is also depending on all sorts of things. The AI system that is now being worked on in-house. We have this is all the stuff that we're questioning because there's been a lot of things talked about.
The AI is a major thing to me.
Especially,
AI is huge.
Yeah, the AI is huge because this isn't like, I swear to God, if I log into this game and there's a dude that walks 20 feet and turns around and walks back 20 feet, and I watch him for 20 minutes and he just does that about 10 times, I'm going to log out and walk away from my computer. You would not see me for a while.
That's why I turned to PvP, honestly. I turned to PvP mainly because I play EverQuest for 8 years, and I got sick of the same stuff over and over again. And it's like, this is boring. I want a brain. I want to fight something that will react to what I am doing. Now, if the AI is like that in EverQuest Next, I might not even care about PvP, as long as the AI can react like a person reacts. But so far, that has not happened in any game. So we'll see what happens.
And we're kind of promised that. So. I don't know where we'll be with that now, but
I'm so stuck, and I almost in MMOs in general, right? Like, I look at all these kickstarted games, and I want them to succeed, and I want them to be great, but still none of them are really that. I mean, they're appealing to me in one regard, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know, because the most fun I ever had in MMOs, like playing in Vanguard and playing in Warcraft, it was not so much the game itself, it was always the people I was playing with. They'd make it fun no matter what we were doing. And right now, like, I'm kind of stuck in that I like the people that I'm playing with. I just wish that they saw more of the game than what was there, because they're in that raid progression treadmill, and, you know, it's log in at this time and be ready to go and kill this boss and stand over here and don't stand over there and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that it's boring, because at least I'm hanging out with my friends, and but at the same time, it's like, I'd rather be running around the countryside with my hair on fire, raising a ruckus, and like RP PvP server, right? And seeing what chases me down to put me in my place, whatever that may be.
No, I have something to say. If they enforced the RP part of an RP PvP server, I might actually play on one, rather than just little RP every time I try to do something. It might be different, because I could understand that the player isn't just like ganking me for ganking's sake. They're ganking me because I'm doing, like, I'm supporting this opposite side. You know what I mean? Maybe. I might be able to get into it, but there's no way they could ever enforce the RP part.
Yeah, and
which is silly.
And going back to the whole thing that started this question, right? When we were talking about flagging, right? EverQuest 1 and Warcraft both had it really simple, because you had two factions that were at war and in continual struggle against one another. Guild Wars 2 kind of did away with the problem by putting it 3 factions over on this other plane of existence over there. Warhammer Online did a 3-faction. Camelot Unchained is doing 3 factions where they're all continuously in at war. There is no reason to suspect we're going to have that type of faction breakdown in EverQuest Next. So, when you flag yourself, are you flagging yourself for anybody? Like, free for all? Anybody can just come run by and hit you? Or are you saying, like, hey, I'm flagged, because there's not going to be any opposing faction that we readily know?
So, and that's the question. What? I guess this may lead because we're running short on time. I know we have like one other thing we got to talk about real quick, so I'm gonna kind of lead it into that.
Okay.
No, I mean,
I was just wondering, does anybody have a pros list for flagged PvP? Because it even seems stupid to me. If you're gonna PvP, don't be like, haha, I'm hiding behind a flag.
oh no.
I agree with that.
Anybody have a pro?
Sometimes I just want to collect my 10 bear butts.
But then at that point, do you really want to play on a PvP server? You have to ask yourself that. Because for me, I would just go around unflagged all the time, and I would know I don't want to play on a PvP server. I just want to quest.
I was an ass yesterday because I did all of Friday. I had
the other day.
Shots fired. Anyway, Friday I had chores to do, and I got all of my work done on Friday, which means I freed up my entire Saturday to sit around and play video games all day long, and that's what I did. And my guild was running some activities on their own, and I just wanted to play video games. I wanted to solo play for a little while, so I just ignored what they were doing and did my own thing. Occasionally, I want to be on I will always be on a PvP server, because when you're on a PvE server, they don't give you that option. But sometimes you just like, I just want to collect my 10 bear butts. I just want to get this thing done, and then I'll move on.
But at that point, aren't you breaking the idea of being able to kill the other players in order to keep them from collecting their bear butts and delivering them to the dryads?
That's what I wish
upping their quest.
No, and I completely agree, and that's why I hope that EverQuest Next delivers a narrative that is more important to me than collecting the 10 bear butts. Like, if you tell me that, like, hey, I don't care how you do it, but I need you to help these dryads out. And then helping these dryads out means picking up acorns, and I'm picking up acorns, and there's a dark elf running by who's cutting down the trees as I'm trying to plant new trees. That means something more to me than the objective, the physical objective, the literal objective of collecting 10 acorns. Like, if you get
exactly, because you're like, well, I'm going to plant these 10 and turn in the quest, so it doesn't matter how many comes
right
down.
But if you tell me, on the other hand, that the objective isn't to plant acorns, but the objective is to help the dryads, then it means a little bit more to me, and I'm way more inclined to be involved in PvP, even if I'm massively outclassed, outleveled, outgeared, whatever, and I die a lot. At least I'm trying, I'm fighting the good fight.
Yep.
I don't see the benefits of flag VP, and I mean, I'm the least advocate about PvP in the world, so I don't see the benefits.
I think it's archaic at this point. At this point in gaming and MMO gaming, it's archaic. It's an
Perfect
old model.
Perfect word.
It's outdated. It needs to be like PvP in games needs to be looked at, updated, and brought into the normal world. Certain games are doing things differently. Like Final Fantasy didn't have PvP, they added it, but it's its own separate thing. PvP has its own skill tree. PvP has its own weapon. Like, it's all separate from the PvE side, and it's something you can do. All servers are PvE in Final Fantasy. But you can log in and do PvP. You can queue, go to the PvP arenas, and just go do PvP, and it's very much separate. WoW does you can do PvP or PvE, and it's archaic. Some games, Camelot Unchained is PvP all the time, Zube, unless you go down into the depths where it's more of a RVR.
Kind of. There's mobs
PvE.
down there. The deaths. I could go on about that for a long time, but it's basically all PvP. Yeah, it's PvP all the time. 3 realms fighting against for materials, the mines, and different various types of things for the crafters. Yeah.
In Guild Wars 2, there is no PvP unless you go to the Eternal Battlegrounds, and that was how they addressed the PvP question. One of the things that they did that I really liked was that when you were fighting in the 3-way battle, you did not see the name of the people that you were attacking. You just saw what faction they were part of, and then later on they added the guild tag so that you could see the guild and the server that you were being killed by. But before that, you had no idea, and I thought, I kind of like that idea a little bit, not just from an RP point of view, because you, like in a war, you have no idea who's killing you. Like, you know that faction is killing you, but you don't know the specific individual. And from a
I
mechanic,
liked it for the same reason.
and from
That
the
came
mechanics,
from Dark Age of Camelot. Dark Age of Camelot did the same thing. It's just said so and so, like Invader. That's all it said. It
Invader,
didn't say
yeah.
their name.
And then from a mechanical point of view, it also stops griefing a little bit because like you die, you respawn. They have no idea that you're the same person that they just killed 10 minutes ago. You have no idea, so you can't really get that whole vengeance fix or, oh my god, this person killed me. I'm going to get my guild together and we're going to go kill them. Like those type of scenarios are a little bit limited when you don't actually know.
That's what makes games like Dark Age of Camelot fun. And Dark Age of Camelot, they had this kill spam. If you get killed by someone, it'll pop up on your screen, on everyone's screen, saying that you were killed by someone. And then everyone just usually messages you saying, "Where were you killed?" And then you tell them, and then they all just start running over there trying to find the person that killed you. I love that game. I can't wait.
Yeah, my first MMO, or not MMO, it was a MUD. It was Dragon Realms, and it was funny because if you died, the whole server got notified that you died, and that was because there was no respawn, there was no self-resurrection. You basically lied there dead until someone came and helped you, or there was respawning. I take that back, but it was complicated, and it was much easier for someone to bring you up from your down state than it was to just die and come back. But I thought that was interesting that it would notify the entire server that you had died. All right. Final thoughts. We have like one last little thing that I was going to throw up before we end the show, but we have about 7 minutes.
Do it. Talk fast.
No, I got nothing.
What
Final
about the
thoughts on
whole
what?
2 years?
That was the last little thing I was going to throw out.
All right. Then I'll be quiet.
What was the last thing?
We can move on to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, today is March 1st, 2015. On my screen over here, I have an article. The article was written in January. It was published. Sorry, it was published January 24th of 2013. And I am going to link it in channel. It has now become a bit of an infamous article that was written by Gama Sutra, because in it, Smedley says that players will get their hands on an actual release version of what we're doing later this year, and I don't mean a beta. And now, when Smedley said this at the beginning of January of 2013, he was actually referring to Landmark. But I think it's important to realize and point out and look at and examine and question that this was January 2 years ago. Where the heck is EverQuest Next at? It's now we've already know that they threw away multiple variations of the game before they decided on this version of EverQuest Next. It's now been in development for at least 2 years, because we can point out when they were talking about it, and they were talking about Landmark, not one of the versions that they threw away. But it's really hard.
Where the hell is my game, damn it?
Show us something. Like, we're having a conversation about their PvP to get them to answer questions, and they either can't or they won't answer the questions. It's like most games, like when they're designing their foundational document about what the game is going to be, PvP is like one of the first questions that they answer, and they want to get out there. And when we try to ask about PvP, this is how the whole subject came up. We can't get an answer from them. We have the four pillars, and we have, how many classes do we have? I think that the last count we had 12 out of 40 classes. Where are the rest of them? We still only know 7 of 8 possible races. What's holding them back from telling us the 8th race? These are just, like, there's the article. It's now been 2 years. Where's the game in development at? And I really want to see more of the game. I really want to see, like, hey,
it is kind of sad that other games that are let's take other was it Project Gorgon Unity based game has more to show for it, and that's a 3-person team, and
it's a lot smaller though. That's a lot smaller scale. I mean, the game's great, but it is
smaller.
EverQuest Next is supposed to be huge, so
show me something.
I I hope that they're working on it and they're just not saying anything yet until they just come up with it and just like, here it is. It looks awesome, right? I don't know. It'd be kind of sad if they weren't.
I have a theory.
Is it bunnies?
I'm going to make another thing to put it in perspective. That they've said that there are 8 races that'll be playable. We know of 7 of them, but we've only seen 3 of them actually in the game engine. All the rest have just been concept art, and it's like, why can't we just see the game, the races in the that you've talked about in the game?
Well, they showed Bashir, not really Bashir, Karen, and everyone. A lot of people didn't like that, so maybe they're just like, we're gonna keep doing this until it be getting better.
Yeah, that. I don't know. I don't agree with that at all. But Karen, Dark Elves, and Humans are the only 3 races that we've actually seen in the engine, as far as we know, unless I'm mistaken. But I remember at like PAX East, maybe in 2014 or the year before, they might have had dwarves, but I think that was just dwarf concept art. It wasn't actually dwarves in the game world.
It was concept.
Yeah, see, and that's where
they didn't, and I think they had like not like a rendered in-game model, but they had like a rendered model, but I don't know if it was in-game engine.
It was just a 3D model.
Yeah, it was just a 3D model, right? Yeah. Looked great, don't get me wrong, looked fantastic. Make you want to play a dwarf, but
show us more. I mean, that's all.
So my theory.
I'm just saying, talk about Kickstarter games. There are Kickstarter games that are just willing to show you anything. You know what? Talk about a game that barely gets any, Pantheon shows us more crap than this. That game may never come out and they show us more. Just saying.
I will disagree with that, because Pantheon has showed us, the game world. But if you play Landmark, you've seen the crafting system, you've seen the combat system. I don't think so.
Although Pantheon is moving to Unity 5, I don't know how they got that, but fun tidbit. I don't know where they're pulling that money out of. But I don't know. It's been possibly longer. I mean, I know they've been working on EverQuest Next since 2007. So, although that was like the first iteration, second, what are we on? Third, fourth iteration?
Third or fourth, maybe fifth.
Third or fourth iteration. I know one version of EverQuest Next used voxels shaped like Minecraft voxels. So they were all very big square blocks until they got the voxel farm technology.
So maybe this is why Sony bailed and sold them.
Sony didn't bail. Remember, Smedley was looking for a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And it made sense from both parties, right?
And maybe that's why.
No, Sony needed to get out from underneath, or SOE needed to stop being a Sony company so they could get their games on more markets, because they're totally blocked from being on Xbox, and they're not really pushing the mobile market. And now that they're an independent game company that doesn't have the Sony name attached to them, now they can be on an Xbox. I mean, that's why I am almost sure that was the driving motivation on why Smedley was I need a different company. I need a different ownership group.
I hate to say it, but something like PlanetSide 2 is be way, the popularity would skyrocket on something more of an Xbox than it would on a PlayStation. I've never known when you say PlayStation, I don't think of oh man, that first person shooter. For people who knew first person shooters, Halo. It's called, most people play for FPSs on console, not saying they don't play it on PC games, but console based players play a lot of FPSs on Xbox. Do your controller, whatever it is, bro dogs, don't care. Just that's the way it is. And PlanetSide could be one of those games. I could see it being a very popular game on the live network. I could see DCUO being very popular on the live network. So, I mean, they're just opening their market into other areas. But holy crap, we're already a minute after. What is going on tonight? We had so much. We knew we had so much to talk about tonight.
It's surprising that we have so much to talk about, because even our next episode, we have great ideas on where we can go. We just have to agree on them, so I'm not telling. Sorry, we'll know in the next day or two.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even.
Oh, go ahead. Or not.
What happened?
She might have been talking to the dog.
No, I was talking to Snowman. So I'm not agreeing and not wanting to talk about it.
All right. Well, oh man, we had questions too. All right, I'll answer all these questions.
Tweet us
real quick. All right, yeah, let me do that real quick. Question: I know this is from Legendary. Spiral Knights is a 10% content, 90% grinding, but the grinding can be skipped with cash. Does the ability to skip grinding with cash make the 10% content less relevant? Yes. That is. I know what Spiral Knights is. I played it in that one. I don't think that game is really fun. Two. If you could skip it with cash, then you're paying for the. Why would you pay to just beat the game? Why would you? Here's my money. Play the game for me. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with like experience point boosts in other games. Like, especially when it's not a theme park type game where there's two different games. There's the game of leveling from 0 to max level, and then there's the game at max level, right? When you're selling like shortcuts to finish that first part of the game, of the leveling part of the game, you're basically saying that it's not worth playing. Don't worry about it. Just give me money and you can skip it. I do not like that. I hate that. I hate experience point portions in any type of game like that, which is another reason why I'm really interested in EverQuest Next, because they're trying to flatten that vertical progression and make it more horizontal.
We had a question from Snowman. The cash should answer: should Zube cut his hair? Fuck no! He should not cut his hair.
He should grow it as long as he wants.
I'm vicariously living my hairstyle because I can't grow it.
This is also from Snowman. Why should someone who is bad at indirect PvP be forced to compete against you in something you're good at? If you're bad at PvP...
Welcome to freaking life.
Yeah.
Why should I play chess against someone who is better than me? They're a grandmaster, I'm an amateur. Why should I play against them? It's because you play the game. You sit down you take the hand that you were given and you run with it and you do the best you can.
Boom. Question: should EQ have a similar system that Arcade used with the jail system? If they want to put a legal system in EverQuest Next, that'd be cool, but I just feel, at this point, I don't want them to add a system that they currently can't get in if they can't get anything else in. I want them to work on the core pillars and give us the game that we want and add stuff like that later on. It would be cool, but it's not needed.
That system is awesome, by the way. That was a really good system for PvP. People could just arrest people and just like throw them in jail for like 35 hours if they wanted to. It was crazy. That was a great way to stop griefing.
I like Eve's bounty system where a player creates a bounty contract and other players fulfill the bounty contract, and so it's basically an exchange. You know, like, hey, I might be bad at playing my spaceship, but I get killed all the time by you. But I have a lot of money, so I'm going to give money to somebody else to come and kill you. And it's cumulative too. It's cumulative too. So if you have a reputation of going around and killing a bunch of players, right? Each of them can take a bounty on you. That person who kills you, they get the bounty from each of them. It's a pretty, you're free to make enemies, but if you make so many enemies, eventually you get pushed to the outer realms in the player-owned space because the inner sphere, it's just not safe for you.
And last but not least, would people be more open to PvP if the AI was close to the skill level play? I think we just talked about, yes. I think we have to see the AI first. But if the AI is on the same level as a player, then I think some people may go back to play PvP, may go back to PvE, just because if it's on the same level, they may not need that interaction. Some people may just stick with PvP because that's what they like. It's one of those we'll have to wait and see sort of things. It's hard to answer until we see it. I couldn't answer until I actually physically sat down and played with both systems and said which one was better. So.
Lucy, Kai, I'll skip this one. You guys jump in.
I don't want to play against other players.
Oh man, yeah. Like I said before, if the AI was as smart as a player, I might not even care about PvP. I just want to not have to play against an AI, like a mob that just stands there while I hit it a couple times.
I don't want to play against a mob that just stands there.
Nope.
If the mobs reacted like a player would, I probably wouldn't even matter if it was on a PvP server.
Remember, they're supposed to, but we don't know that because we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I know they are, but we'll see what happens.
2
What do we have to
years,
say?
show it to me.
Yeah.
Because currently the AI in Landmark there, it's very. I do my flashy animation, which means don't stand in front of me. It's not very interesting of a combat system.
It's like I gave Daybreak Games the promise ring, and they're just breaking my heart. All right, guys, it's episode 49. We were running late, but we did it because you guys asked us a bunch of questions, and we wanted to answer them. Thank you so much for showing up. Do you know that next week is our 50th episode? I want to stress that that's important. That's big for us because that means not only have we're halfway to 100 at this point. We are the longest running EverQuest Next podcast / Landmark podcast. We've been doing this for a long time. We've gone through a lot of changes, and 50 is big for us. And we wouldn't be here without you. So please, next week, show up. We got something going on next week, don't we?
We should call it
something.
Pajama episode.
Show up.
Pajama episode.
That's all.
Pajama episode. I thought we were really gonna wear like suits and ties and.
Oh god, we have to get all dressed up and shit.
We may have to, yeah. That being said, all right, send us your emails at evercast.show@gmail.com.
Tweet us and tell us if you want us to like wear pajamas or if you want us to be like all pimped out.
Yeah, you tell us. Do you want us to dress like I'll wear a collared shirt, like long sleeve? I can do that. Or I can wear jammies. I don't care. Jammy jam for the jammy jam. I do that. But email the drinking game. Guys, send us please. I want to release like the official EverCast drinking game, and I listen. We do a lot here. Like, if you want us, like, pulling a tandem, we know that. Bare butts, we got that. But what else? You guys watch more than us. Like, critique us and say, like, you guys do this thing and it should be on the drinking game. Please, just let us know. And we're looking for 10. So send us your email it or tweet it to us. It's evercast.show@gmail.com. Send us your questions, the drinking game stuff, and send us letters that you want us to read. Listen, I'll read it on air. If it's short enough, I'll read your email on air. You never know.
The dogs are being yelled at.
Yeah, so, there we go. There's a drink every time Tamlin yells at the dogs.
All right. Let's see, and you can go follow Zube. He says things. Sometimes.
I say things sometimes.
Sometimes he streams on Twitch every once in a while. You may want to catch that out.
And he buys all the games.
He buys all the games.
All the PvP MMOs. I buy them.
Yeah. So thank you all, and we will see you next week for our 50th episode. And that's all I got. And I guess we're gonna camp out maybe or beam up. We're gonna beam up this time. Thank you all, and instead of camping, usually we camp, but I think we're going to say live long and prosper on this 49th episode of EverCast, and we will see you next week for our 50th. Thank you, and good night.
Live long and prosper.
LLAP.